Welcome back to continue our discussion on dreams. Again, Dreams Part 2. Joining me is Dr. Ivy Norris, Vice President of the School of Metaphysics. Let's jump in, Ivy.
Okay.
Now, when we ended that segment, we were talking about the different levels of the mind, correct? That's what we call them, would be levels. And you were talking about that subconscious level in terms of dreaming and being in the emotional part of that where we're dreaming like in black and white compared to some other levels.
Right.
Now, the significance of colors. If a person is dreaming in color, like in red, does that imply something sinister? Like, I mean, we can associate red with blood or anything like that, that there's going to be death or I'm going to be hurt or harmed, or what do colors mean? I mean, if I'm in a red car, I'm going to be smashed and cracked up, you know, because we think of fast red cars getting into trouble. I mean, what do these colors mean?
Well, of course, it means different things for different people. Each color has a different vibration to it. And the higher vibratory colors are the colors that are lighter, like pastels or whites or things like that. And then black and white is, like I said, was the emotional level. And all that indicates is that usually the day before that person was dwelling more in the emotions, you know, and that's for good or for bad or however you want to look at it. They were just dwelling more in the emotions. And deeper into the levels of the mind are more technicolors, like the vibrant reds and blues and things like that. That just indicates a deeper level of mind. And then the pastels have to do with a greater purity to the thoughts. When people become more and more concentrated during their day, less scattered, then they can refine and streamline and purify their thinking. So they're very conscious of what it is that they're thinking. They're very intentional with what it is that they're thinking. And then it affects their life. They feel more peaceful. They have better relationships, less crisis, because thoughts very much affect our reality.
Well, let me ask this, and people may kind of sort of put this in a real world sense if we're coming to get this type of assistance. Let's say we're in the situation where maybe we're in a bad work environment where there's a lot of tension and hostility and you don't feel there's support. Maybe it's a relationship where you feel things, nothing can ever go right or nothing's happening correctly. So I'm dreaming a lot of black and white kinds of things. Now, if you're saying as I progress deeper into those levels of mine, I can change, I will have different kinds of dreams based on it reflecting my level of control or ability to process, right?
Well, dreams reflect our state of thinking.
Okay.
So the more that we're able to resolve those emotional reactions, come to peace with situations in our life, make different choices so that we have better experiences that we need, that's going to be reflected in our dream state. It's more of our choices out here affect what happens inside.
So how would you help an individual who's coming to you with that kind of phenomena, whether it's relationship trauma or workplace trauma or any other kind of trauma? Do you help them, because maybe they don't know all of those things that are really affecting them. Do you kind of help them isolate those out in order to understand the mind so they can get to more of a reflective kind of thought and dream process?
Definitely. We offer counseling as well as the classes in the school. And with the counseling, I often work with people's dreams so they can identify what's going on inside of them. Because if there isn't a change within the person, even if they leave those stressful circumstances, they may reproduce those physical experiences until they have the learning that they need. So we help people to understand what's happening in their lives, learn from it, grow from it, become independent of, you know, what other people are doing, and then make choices from that place on which direction to take in their life.
Okay, and like you're saying, you use the dream as the basis of that kind of self-awareness, because like I said, a lot of times people don't know what all is affecting them, but they can relate a dream that they're having all the time or keep having that's very traumatizing to them, and so you can help break those kinds of things down.
We can. A lot of times people just come because they're stressed or they can't sleep or something like that. And yes, stress does affect our health, and to be able to pinpoint the actual cause of what's creating the stress is so much more empowering to people, because when they know cause, they can make changes.
Now, if a person is dreaming things such as about fires or violent kind of acts or things like that, what does that really mean? That they must be involved in some type of stress, you know, where they may feel like a house is always burning or something like that? Is that sort of the kinds of things that can indicate stress in a person's life based on their dream?
It could. It really depends. In the universal language of mind, the language of pictures that dreams give us, fire represents expansion. And so a lot of times when people are going through major changes, their consciousness is expanding. And whether or not they're conscious of it or whether or not they want it depends on how they deal with it. So some people go after change and they love growth and expansion and are causing it specifically and intentionally. And some people have circumstances happen to them where they feel like it's being forced on them. And so we help people to, you know, turn the tide and to look at it differently, as well as take charge in some areas.
And that's important to know, because sometimes we might be interpreting what it means and we're not interpreting it as what it really means.
Right.
Because we're thinking fire is they're trying to consume me, you know, they're after me, I'm going to be destroyed. But you're saying it indicates expansion. Something's happening that's creating some type of expansion.
Right. It reminds me of that saying that I think it must have been Shakespeare, nothing's either good or bad, but our thinking makes it so. And so when people become aware that they're feeling this pressure because there's an expansion happening in them, they can look at it differently and realize, wow, I just need to ride this wave for a little bit and have some clear goals so that all this energy can be directed towards something that I need and want in my life.
Okay, now what about cars? Sometimes, like I mentioned about the red cars and the impact and crashing and all that type of thing. If you're dreaming about cars and there's some damage happening to the car that you're in, is that foreboding that something's getting ready to happen to you, or something's happened that's been really bad?
Well, just simply put, a car in the universal language of mind represents the physical body. And so if the car is broken down in the dream, it indicates that there may be some health challenges going on with the physical body. And we've had many examples of that. It's pretty wonderful to listen to our dreams, because a lot of times it does come a couple weeks before an actual disease sets in, and then we can make different choices in what we're eating, thinking, how we're resting, you know, all those different things that help us to have health. There was one woman once who had a horrible car wreck in her dream, and she didn't drive for years and years and years. And she thought that she took it literally, that she was going to have a car wreck. And we asked her, we said, at the time of the dream, shortly after, did you get sick? And she said, yeah, I had pneumonia. And he said, that's what the dream was talking about. It wasn't talking about literally that you were physically going to have a car wreck. It was giving you an indication that you needed to take care of your health.
So if we have this type of interpretive ability, and you're assisting with us with learning that, does it then help us to make certain kind of changes? Let's say for the one you mentioned with the car and that type of thing. How do we know that we're going to end up with pneumonia? Or does that mean that we should, like you say, start looking at what are our health practices? What are we doing? What are we eating? How are we resting? Those kinds of things, so that we build up our immunity, or think, is that what it helps us to do?
It does. I mean, we may know more specifically what it is. I mean, a counselor can help with that as well. However, just do a little checklist. You know, am I worrying all the time? You know, am I eating junk food and sugar, you know, too much? Am I forgetting to sleep more than 5 hours a night? You know, am I just looking at the different areas where somebody could be living unhealthy? Healthily.
Okay, we're going to take another quick break and come back and talk a little bit more about dreams and the fascinating mind that we have.
It's wonderful.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back.